Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Earlier today, Greg Popovich said in a press conference that the San Antonio Spurs and LaMarcus Aldridge will be going in a separate direction. Hearing this news, me, as a Bucks fan, immediately began to consider whether or not Aldridge would be a fit with my favorite team. The first question to come into play here is whether or not Aldridge will be traded or bought out. If he does get traded, then there is no chance that he will come to the Bucks because there's just no deal that would make sense for either team in that case. So that brings us to the buyout market, assuming Aldridge does not get traded. If he does, then that renders everything that I'm about to say completely useless. But if he does get bought out and is available on the open market for a minimum contract, then the Bucks certainly could get in the running. So in this video, I'm going to be attacking the question of whether or not the Bucks should sign LaMarcus Aldridge if he were to become available. Let's start off by outlining what he's done so far this season. Aldridge is averaging 13.7 points and 4.5 rebounds per game coming off the bench for the San Antonio Spurs. This move to the bench has been something that he has not been a huge fan of, and that is an immediate red flag because I don't really think that Coach Mike Budenholzer would start Aldridge over the incumbent starting center in Brook Lopez. So immediately, that's a question mark right there. But Aldridge is a very solid shooter for a big guy. So far this year, he's shooting 36% on 3.6 3-point attempts per game, and that's coming off of last year where he shot 38.9% on 3-point attempts per game. So we now have a 2-year sample size of Aldridge genuinely being a consistent and somewhat high volume, certainly higher volume than he was the rest of his career, 3-point shooter. And that very well fits what the Bucks like to do on the offensive side of the court. Aldridge could help them to continue to space out the floor and could be a knockdown shooter playing off of Giannis Antetokounmpo. However, Aldridge's offensive game outside of the shooting really contrasts with what the Bucks like to do. LaMarcus takes 33.5% of his shots, just over 1/3 of his looks, from between 16 feet and the 3-point line. He converts those at a very solid rate, shooting 51.8 on those deep mid-range shots, but the Bucks, aside from Chris Middleton, really discourage that kind of shot from being taken. So bringing in a player who is that reliant on his mid-range game in order to score like Aldridge seems to be a bit of a problem and perhaps would not be a direction the Bucks would want to go in. He especially likes to play that isolation style of basketball in which he pounds the ball in the post and ends up taking a turnaround jump shot. And that just really does not fit with what the Bucks' offensive philosophy has been over the past couple of seasons. So clearly there's a stylistic problem right there. Another stylistic problem comes in on the defensive side of the court. The Bucks like to run a drop coverage scheme in which they funnel the opposing team's ball handlers into the paint where their big guy, whether it's Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Bobby Portis, is able to contest shots at the rim. Unfortunately, Aldridge is not much of a shot blocker. So far this season, he's averaging just 0.9 blocks per game, less than 1 block per game, despite playing 98% of his minutes at the center position. The Spurs are a team that does do a bit more switching on the perimeter, but in general, Aldridge should be blocking shots at a higher rate than he does, and that kind of minuscule block rate is just not going to cut it in the Bucks system. So with Aldridge, there are certain pieces of his game that would fit very, very well in Milwaukee. I would also be intrigued with his ability to come off the bench and play some minutes with the second unit in which he could fortify the scoring from that bench unit a little bit better than it currently has been. He could push Bobby Portis over to the 4 and they could throw out a pretty big bench unit in which those two guys were on the court at the same time. In addition to that, the 3-point shooting would complement Giannis Antetokounmpo quite well on the offensive end. However, there are enough stylistic flaws both on defense with his rim protection and on offense with his tendency to settle for mid-range jumpers that I don't really think that this is a deal that the Bucks would be worth making. If they are going to fill their roster spot with a Spur, I would definitely consider Rudy Gay or Patty Mills before Aldridge. And in summary, I don't really think that Aldridge is a great fit in Milwaukee, and there are certainly other directions that I would prefer to see them go in. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. If Aldridge does get bought out, do you think that the Bucks should look to sign him? Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. That's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all again very soon.